Welcome to a new fragrance review. Today we're going to do a top 5 of my favorite notes. So I'm going to do like a top 5 of the notes in perfumery that I think are the best. And it's really according to me. And I'm going to try to give you an example of a nice fragrance that showcases that note. So I've got one honorable mention, and it's oak moss. And the reason I haven't put it, it's because oak moss, it's pretty much what it is. It smells oak moss. It doesn't get any more interesting than oak moss as it is. So it didn't made it into the top 5, but why it's still an honorable mention is because there was a time where oak moss was one of the most used fragrance ingredient, and all of a sudden it disappeared. It's like if people don't like oak moss, or a perfumer don't like to use oak moss anymore, or something that smells oak moss. And I think it's a bit sad because the note smells good. It's still kind of interesting to have it in the note breakdown, but sadly, less and less perfumers use it. So that's why it's an honorable mention. So number 5, it's violet. And why I like violet, it's apart the fact that I think it smells good, it's an interesting note. And there's a lot of notes that are interesting for a different reason. And this one, what I like is that it can be more fruity, it can be more powdery, it can be more natural and floral. And there's many ways it can be showcased in a fragrance. And there's not so many notes that does this stuff, like oak moss, for example. Well, oak moss, it's pretty much always kind of woody, resinous, damp, and humid. It's pretty much how it show itself in most fragrance when it's there. But violet can be really different. Sadly, I don't have any example for you. I know there's many men fragrance that have violet, but I haven't found one yet that really I say it's really nice. Even in the fragrance that I make, I haven't made something that violet is really prominent in a men fragrance. There's some women's fragrance that I smell with violet, even that I made, but nothing really that as a men fragrance that you should try. Number 4, it's vanilla. And vanilla, I think it's also a really interesting note. It does smell nice, but it can smell in really multiple way. I think it's one of the note that has the more way it can occur. It can be more, synthetic kind of vanilla. It can be sweet. It can be more sparkling, like a cream soda kind of smell. It can be more natural. It can there's many stuff that can make the smell of vanilla also, which is why it can appear in different way. I know vanilla, like the vanilla beans, for the taste, there's more than 100 ingredients or like molecule inside of it that create the taste. And I know a lot of them are also something that can smell, like vanillin, for example, that you surely heard about. But there's not only vanillin, there's a lot of component within vanilla that can be isolated and have a different take on vanilla. So also in making perfumery, it's an interesting note. In smelling it, it's interesting, and how it react, it's also really interesting. So that's why it's in the top 5. It's the other notes, I would say they are less interesting in the way they can be shown, but I think the smell is just better. One fragrance I think you should try, or at least try to go smell it, it's the new fragrance by Diesel, which is Only the Brave Street. I think it's really a well-made fragrance with vanilla. Also, a lot of clubbing fragrance have vanilla in it, like the Eros line and the Jean-Paul Gaultier, Le Male. A lot of them have vanilla. So, but really, I think Only the Brave Street, it's really a nice take on vanilla, so you should try it. Number 3, it's Vetiver. And Vetiver also there's the nice way it can be more smoky, more woody, more green, and like grassy. It can be showcased in many way in a fragrance, but what I like about it, it's not like vanilla that there's 100 of component that you can take one and like use this one to show it in this way. There's just by itself the vetiver can be used in a fragrance and be totally different with all the things that is around it. It can be seen really differently. I remember even from the bottle, I got a bottle of pure essential oil of vetiver, and I got one which is 10% vetiver essential oil inside of alcohol. And remember, the first time I smelled it, it was completely different for me. The smell was another smell than vetiver just because of the concentration. And that makes it really interesting because by itself, it can be seen really differently. And one fragrance I really love about vetiver, it's Vetiver Extreme by Guerlain. I think it's a beautiful fragrance. I know a lot of people will say the original Vetiver is really nice by Guerlain, but I never tried it. And another fragrance I think it's nice, it's Encre Noire, which is a really nice take on vetiver. Personally, I smell a cypress more than vetiver, but it's a nice fragrance also. But if you have to try only one of the two, I would say Vetiver Extreme. Number 4, it's tobacco. And tobacco, it doesn't show itself so much differently. There's many note of tobacco. There's dry tobacco leaf, there's a sweet tobacco, and there's tobacco flower, which technically is not the same as our tobacco blossom, but it's not like tobacco leaf. It's two different things. It's like orange, neroli, and stuff like that. In the end, they are the same plant, but it's not the same note really. But I think it smells really nice, and really it's just the smell that makes it being here at number 2, because I think it smells beautiful. And one fragrance that you absolutely need to try and to smell, which is literally the fragrance that let me learn about that note and really discover it and love the note of tobacco. And it's Tobacco Vanille by Tom Ford. Really, that fragrance is beautiful. And even if you don't want to just buy it, you should go somewhere where they have it, ask for a little spray and a paper, and at least smell it because it smells beautiful. Another tobacco fragrance, which also would be a nice leather fragrance, it's Cuir Intense by Guerlain. The tobacco there is really different. It's dry. It's not sweet, but it's a nice take on tobacco also. And number 1, it's the note of leather. And leather, really, there's both. It's interesting, and I love the smell, which is why it's in the list. And why I think it's interesting is that it's because in perfumery itself, there's many ways to create leather. There's an accord of different things that you can put together that gives the leather smell. There's also things like quinoline, for example, which already smells like leather. And all of those ways to make leather will give a different kind of leather. There's suede leather, there's green leather, black leather, brown leather. It can be really different in the way it's seen, it's perceived. That note can be really nice and really easygoing, depending on how it's made. Good example of that is Ombre Leather and Italian Leather by Tom Ford. But it can also be really strong, harsh, and challenging, which is something that not every note can make. Like vanilla, you cannot really make something challenging with vanilla. I mean, pretty much everyone will like it. But with leather, you can make something really nice and pleasing and something really challenging if you want. Good example of tobacco fragrance, I said Ombre Leather and Italian Leather, and personally I don't think they're a good example. They're a nice fragrance, but for me they're more either a sweet fragrance with leather and just a spicy leather. So they're not really good example for me. Where I would see a really good example, it's with the fragrance Cuir Intense by Guerlain. This one, the fragrance The leather, it's really nice. It's more of a brown leather, and it smells really good. It's like leather and tobacco really together. Personally, I smelled tobacco more than the leather, but the first time I smelled it, I remember that leather was really, really powerful. It's nice and it's really special. It's nice fragrance to smell. And another one that I like, it's not quite a leather fragrance. It's more of a green fragrance that has a green leather note inside of it, and it's Aramis by Aramis, the original one. And really, the fragrance by itself, it smells nice, but the leather inside of it is really interesting. So I hope you enjoyed this video. If it's the case, well, like and share. If you have any opinion of either a note that you think it's really nice that I should have said in the top 5, or a fragrance that really illustrate one of those notes better than what I said, just write it in the comment. So thanks for watching, and see you soon.